Hello, it's Make It Make Sense. I'm Alex Kenlin. As always, you can reach us at Make It Make Sense at nextstar.tv. But enough about that. Today I have a guest joining me in the studio, fellow reporter Mike Rogers. Mike, how you doing, my man?
Oh, doing great, Alex. It's Friday. We are here to talk about some very important topics going on here in Central Arkansas.
No, Mike. It's Monday evening.
Oh, it's Monday. You're right. Yeah, we're just getting started.
Wow, I had a great weekend. How about you?
Oh, great.
But no, and in all seriousness, we're talking about this on Friday, and this all came up. I thought you did a story this week that really interested me about a situation in Woodruff County. And could you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So, basically, brown water concerns deposits of iron and manganese in Woodruff County that a lot of these people are dealing with. At least 620 customers with cross-county rural water are being affected currently. The water ranges from sometimes clear, sometimes opaque, to sometimes visible sediment within their water. And we actually, when we were out there, we had a gentleman turn on the faucet, and very much looks like watered down coffee, and not exactly what you want to see coming out of your tap. But what is really concerning is that, or I guess concerning in a way, is that though the county is saying obviously it's unacceptable, though it's technically safe, it's clearly not clean water.
And this is, so it's Woodruff County, and gee, it's a shame their water's like this. But this is a water system. This is actually the cross-county water system. And do we have some idea how large the cross-county water system is?
Well, at this time, it's about, at least it's a couple of counties within Woodruff County, and then a couple of neighboring counties kind of right around there. I didn't exactly get where all they were, where they cover. But specifically in this county, it's 620 customers that's the only ones that have actually reported. It could be, well more than that, but 620 customers just within Woodruff County are the ones dealing with this problem. And it is, a system that is overseen by the cross-county rural water system. And, what it comes down to is, these are naturally occurring elements and sediments.
State funding is slated for plant upgrades and tank
Found
cleanings,
in
but
Delta
King says
groundwater.
that money can only be issued after the work is complete, which he says won't happen until the end of
ADEQ
next
is the
year.
one
The money that should go into
says
infrastructure and
whether or
improving
not
these things
Arkansas
has had
Department
to
of
cover costs
Environmental
because these
Quality,
things aren't
correct,
built to
is
scale.
one that
And
says
it's time to
whether or
look at
not
a different
your
model.
water is worthy.
Exactly.
In the short term, crews
this
are
water has been
continuing to
passing
flush lines, and the
those
National
tests.
Guard is delivering bottled water.
Technically
Meanwhile,
safe, because
Cross County
none of the-
Rural Water's
none of the
next board
sediments
meeting
that
is scheduled
are
for early March,
going
and customers
into the
say
water are
they'll be watching that
technically
closely. Live in studio, Mike Rogers, KARK 4
harmful to
News.
people. Technically not harmful to people. So, what it comes down to, though, is, the impacts that all of these people are seeing. We talk with, mothers who are trying to do laundry. Clothes are getting stained. Water coming out of the tap is brown. There's appliances that are being damaged by this water because the sediment it sticks to their tubs. It erodes their faucets, and it's been going on since 2023, and it's only been exacerbated here into 2026. So long timelines, eroding appliances, and really eroding trust in kind of what is the county going to do about it and when is it going to happen? Because a lot of these people, as you would expect from any average day American, you kind of expect clean water as part of what is expected living in a community in America in the modern day.
Yeah, although I'll tell you, I one time was in a motel in West Monroe, I want to pronounce it like a native, West Monroe, Louisiana. And they even had warning cards in the bathroom and on the nightstand that our water here is brown. We know it is past safety standards. But like you say, what does that mean? But you're taking a shower in brown water.
Exactly.
So what do we know what led to this? So did something tip over in 2023?
No, nothing tipped over. These are the water tanker system that they have has been around there for decades at this point. It's old.
Water has been an eyesore for years.
The problem is
It's
that
old
it's iron
pipes.
and manganese.
It is
looks like
old tankers. It is an old system that this water is being flushed into, filtered through, and then sent back out. And what is also happening is the water plant that they have, obviously the winter storm made things worse. They said it really impacted just what the plant was able to do. But what's also what also seems like is a culprit or something that is adding to this problem is their system is set for around the plant capacity is around 500,000 gallons of water daily.
Mm-hmm.
The winter storm hit, a spike in demand comes. That plant is then suddenly pumping out 700,000 gallons of water because customers were constantly running their water to keep their pipes from freezing.
Sure.
And, neighboring systems needed help too. They had to go outside of the county to assist when their own county was going through, an overconsumption at a time of critical need, for people. So it's really a mixture of these small rural systems being stretched so thin in terms of demand, and then you throw in the infrastructure stress on top of extreme winter weather, and that's when these problems come. Now, there is a solution on the horizon. But when you say on the horizon, that doesn't fix your brown water the next day.
Well, and let me, I'm going to interrupt you real quick because you use the term water tankers, but you're actually talking about the water tanks out there?
Yes, correct.
And I know you got I've got one up on the screen right now. I know you've got some pictures of it in your story, in the online coverage. Well, I say online, but what you broadcast and then what followed from that. But, and so everybody, this is how I've covered water systems before, and I'm certainly no expert at it. I'm certainly not a licensed water department manager. But the way these things work is your water plant pumps out the clean water going to the households and wherever else, going to the water meters. And that clean water goes into water tanks, which then feed the system. If it wasn't for water tanks, there'd be a constant sort of pulsing at the faucet. So this is why when you talk about rust in the tanks, it's not like they can just jump around, throw down some pipe and take that tank out of the system. I wonder what it costs to repaint the inside of a water tank.
Well, what it costs to repaint and what it costs to, do anything to, make any kind of tangible change. It's, as I mentioned, it's on the horizon. They got $5 million in state funding for upgrades. What that is what you have to do with that money, and if that's going to be enough, though, I think becomes the question. Because we're talking $5 million in state funding that they had, and I think they'll probably have to apply for additional grants down the line. And I think Judge Brinkley, the judge said that he was, they know there are going to be avenues that they have to explore for this, but it's going to start out with a full tank clean out, new filters, rehabilitation for the tank, and getting whatever changes that have to be made, set up, and then also an acid feed system for pH balance to make sure all of these new changes and everything that's going to be pumping new water and sending it out is going to meet water quality standards. The system basically has to front the cost of this, however. They have to make the upgrades to be able to secure, this state funding. And they're hoping to finish those upgrades by, the end of 2027. But it's just it's a picture clear situation where a rural system is, struggling with the reimbursement model. There's immediate funding delays, and that is how you come to an old system that has been around for that long that is taking nearly a decade to fix. And in the meantime, customers, not only did they say they don't want to continue paying, what are you paying your water bill for? Is a lot of what we were hearing, from people. Though it's a necessity, and there are days, they said, that are better and worse, but it's still a constant.
Well, and I'll tell you, there's a couple points that I'd like to meet. That when I first got out of the service, we lived in a house way out in the country, and it was heated with wood. And we did have electrical power from in town, but we used that power to drive a well pump. Fine. But of course, it was way out in the country, and sometimes something would happen and we'd lose power. And losing power was what it was. You'd light a candle, you'd use a flashlight, whatever else. But when you couldn't get water, that was terrible. That was just something you couldn't live with. So, I can understand part of what these people are saying, but it's still, the water is still running through their cleaning system, right? Their filters and everything else at the water plant.
Yeah, that's correct. And, and the water is still running. It just happens to look like, how we said, watered down coffee. Now, in the short term, they have called, the governor did deploy the National Guard, and they were, handing out bottles of water to people. And a lot of these people that we spoke with said not only were they using that to drink, but they're using that to run their washing machine. They're using that to clean their dishes with, to try and run their dishwasher with, to at least cut down on the sediment water that would be running through their dishwasher. And at that time, just talking about that, you could go through a whole pack of water in that and maybe be able to get 2 daily household chores done.
And I was going to, did you happen to get a picture of a glass of brown water in your story? I'm looking through your story right now.
Yeah, we did. I believe right off the top.
Oh, really?
We had, and that was at.
See, and everybody just had a chance to hear TV talk.
Right off the top. And that was right at the water plant. That is the sink that water was coming out of.
Well, and we saw this at the water plant. If you look at the screen to your left there, you'll see what I'm talking about. And I guess that's at the water plant. And that's some indicator of the condition of the water plant.
Yeah.
And it looks pretty rough, but I don't think I had to tell you that.
We were out there, saw that in person. And, the judge was saying, they are trying to do everything they can, but he completely understands that, it is unacceptable, and it is not beyond the ask of a resident of Woodruff County to want, clean water.
Well, sure. And let me, I'm looking right now to see if we have a picture. Oh, there it is. Yeah, you know what? Watch this. Because that does, now that I look at it, in fact, I'll see if I can, let me hit play here. You know what? Watch this. I'm getting so good at these buttons. Let's see if we can't at least see this water running. Yeah, that's brown water coming out of the faucet. So, and I'm going to pause that right there. Or I think I am.
Ditch water, swamp water, muddy water. Sometimes
completely lost control. Hang on a second, Mike. All right, now we're back. But yeah, and apologies to the viewers, but there's a wall of buttons here, and I'm actually a news writer. So
venture.
You know, you probably don't want me flying the airplane. But with that said, hey, Mike, I tell you what we got to do before we go any further is we got to take a break. We got to give our sponsors something to talk about. And so we're going to do that, and we'll be right back. This is Make It Make Sense. I'm Alex Kenlin here with Mike Rogers, talking about a Woodruff County water supply problem. And what we might do as we come back is start talking about this in a broader thing, because, of course, it doesn't end in Woodruff County, does it, Mike?
No.
Okay. We'll be right back. And we're back. Let's make it make sense. I remain Alex Kenlin, and I continue to be joined by guest Mike Rogers, guest and colleague Mike Rogers, who was covering water supply issues in Woodruff County, eastern Woodruff County. Now, so we talked about what's on the horizon. They know how to fix this. They know what it's going to take. They've already gotten $5 million to fix this, and it's not enough. They need more than that. What's when you were in Woodruff County? I mean, is there a lot going on there? Is there a lot of industry? Is there a lot of employment?
You know, it didn't really. Yes and no.
Okay.
You know, it's rural. I
Yeah,
mean,
sure.
This is rural Arkansas. You know that we're talking about with this. And unfortunately, you know, when I was kind of researching it as we were getting out there, this is a similar problem that a lot of communities kind of in the Mississippi River Delta area, and a lot of water systems just in that region, you know, are dealing with. And a lot of them very similar to Woodruff County, you know, very small populations, failing to meet water standards, boil water notices. You know, when we saw plenty of those going out, we were running those like tickers when you know, the winter storm did hit.
Oh yeah,
and it's just problems that were completely exacerbated, and the issue of, you know, failing to meet water quality standards when it's nice out, you know, it just gets that much worse for, you know, Woodruff County, and then you talk about, you know, the Delta towns, and it's aging and underfunded utilities that, you know, these rural communities, you're trying to address so many things to try and fix things up, but then when problems like this rear their ugly head, it does seem like you're playing more defense than you are, you know, proactively attacking it and trying to make changes, because, you know, and as we said, this is funding that they are waiting on, that they got approved for, but it's a problem that's been happening on and off, and it rears its ugly head since 2023.
and this is just we're saying Woodruff County, but it's actually the Cross County water system that serves more than Cross County. And this is one of the reasons I wanted to talk to you about this, because it doesn't really end in Woodruff County, does it? I mean, we've both done this reporting, and we've seen this issue of antiquated water systems. And I probably shouldn't have said antiquated, but overstressed, would that be fair?
Yeah.
Overstressed water systems and aging water systems. And so now we have people at home with brown water coming out of their tap. And certainly we some of us have memories of communities that, I might be dating myself here, but just pretend you know exactly what I'm talking about. Used to run into problems with sulfur water in certain communities. And you could always tell somebody from one of those communities, and I'm not going to name names because they're lovely communities and they've since repaired this problem. But you'd talk to them and smell sulfur. You'd smell it on their clothes. Their hair was always terrible looking. And but they fixed it. You know, and money was invested, and they're no longer getting by on sulfur water. Do you know what? Now I'm being serious. Do you know what I'm talking about when I say sulfur water? Have you ever been around that?
Yes, yeah. I mean, I have. I've taken showers in well water when it does kind of smell like rotten eggs. That's kind of what I knew from sulfur. Am I in the ballpark? I think I know sulfur.
You're there. You're there, my friend. So yeah, something. But you know, how did we fix this? Well, every time we've invested money and got the equipment up there, because you can't walk away from a water system. And if you do, what happens? Now, what I have seen in some communities is small water systems being turned over to larger water systems nearby, so that one large system is taking care of a lot of what was at one time smaller systems. And but I'll tell you what else I've seen. A lot of people, well, we got a well at the farm, so I don't really care what they do, and that's fine. But when fracking was going big, we started seeing wells collapse on these family farms. And when I say collapse, it went from a well they could count on, that their father had counted on, that their grandfather had counted on, and all of a sudden they turned it, and it looks much dirtier than anything you saw in your story, and not just much dirtier, but no way it would pass ADEQ standards. So I even met one family, and again, I'm not naming names. They had a big tanker. The Army calls them water buffaloes, these trailered water tanks, and they had something like that, and they would go in and get some water from the city water system, and that was what their household ran on. They were trying, and in fact, the reason I found out about it is they were hitting up the county to try to get a water line run out to their place. I'd also like to point out that every time I say the word water, everybody here realizes I'm not originally from Arkansas. All I can do is apologize. Well, I don't necessarily need to apologize for that. I'm not the first guy in Arkansas who was not born in Arkansas.
Two transplants here.
Yeah, exactly, and probably won't be the last. Yeah. But so what do? So we're just going to start looking at this and seriously start thinking about the funding for this?
I think the funding. Yeah, I mean the funding has to come to the point where, I mean, underfunded and outdated systems need to be upgraded. What they're dealing with, though, however, is, as we mentioned, a lot of these rural communities, lacking the resources for, treatment plant upgrades, replacing old pipes. And then obviously when you have to make these upgrades, you take what you already have out of commission while you're making those upgrades. Mm-hmm. And how do you ask the public to say, don't run your water for X amount of time while we make those upgrades? And I think, they had that date for to maybe 2027 to where, they think they're going to be able to secure all of the funding to then come make these upgrades. It's a lot to ask, residents to roll with the punches for. And it's a long time for people to be dealing with poor water quality. And, technically safe doesn't exactly move the needle when you got to do your dishes, when you have to bathe your children, when you're having to get your children water from your tap. And, there is also what we didn't get into it with the judge, but, I used to cover plenty of communities in Texas that were dealing with, water problems for themselves. When you do a lot of these infrastructure upgrades, there's a lot of debt tied to that. You're really
Goodness, yes.
You reach into the pot to have to, because there are things you have to you want to get done. You're trying to move your community forward, but then you have to start debt financing, replacing these antiquated systems, and it takes so much money.
Well, so we're talking bond issues. Then voters have to approve the bond issue. And, of course, everybody just loves it when we say taxes are going to go up. And that was the same situation in Texas for you, wasn't it? They'd have to go through a bond issue to fund these things.
Exactly, yeah. And some people, you want to make the fix, but you don't want to pay for it. And that becomes, it's
yeah.
The tail's got to wag the dog at some point.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, let's... I almost hate to bring this up because it's such a controversial thing, but here's how I'll ask the question. Are there any data centers planned for the greater Woodruff County area that you know of? I don't expect you to be our our Woodruff County expert at the moment.
No, but that has become one of the bigger issues. I know it's something that we're worried about here in Pulaski County with planned data centers and just how much water those things are going to be using with water turbines to then run everything and keep them up. Because as you mentioned, data centers, you're talking 24/7. These things are running, and how are they going to run?
And I forget, I've seen the numbers on how much they use water for cooling, and then I wish I'd written this down going in, but the amount of electricity they use, and as you say, that they keep the flue on the dam open for that much longer, and it's just a lot of water.
Yeah, and there's from what I looked up, there is no data centers planned for Woodruff County. There obviously is, here in Little Rock, Google is building, or I think at least has plans to build a campus in West Memphis.
I don't think. Well, yeah, the one in West Memphis they formally announced for Google. The one in the port of Little Rock, I don't think they've. In other words, it's still in the hands of a holding company. They haven't said who the big tech company is that will finally be operating the thing, but it's one of them.
It's one of them.
Yeah. And it's a large plant. And by the way, I have no doubt that the reason they chose the port of Little Rock to build the thing, the same as they chose West Memphis, there's a lot of water nearby. And of course, we have that wonderful slackwater port there for the port of Little Rock. And let me add, just to clarify a point, as far as we know, as far as we can tell, as far as we've seen, and we speak from years of experience in the area, Pulaski County water system's just running great. In fact, I remember there were some issues during the 30 Crossing project when they were getting that bridge finished, and they had to reconnect some water pipes. And there was some here comes a word. There was some turbidity in the water while they were getting the things flushed out, but no cause for panic, and it was clean water. And that's what we're talking about though in Woodruff County. It's clean water, but the turbidity is not leaving. So, but yeah. Well, okay, let's take this, and we're running out of time. In fact, we're about out of time. But as we're talking about infrastructure, and we're talking about infrastructure for water systems, and we also know that these data centers require a lot of electrical power to run. So now we're talking about infrastructure for electrical power, which was a big issue. Well, an issue that deserves more discussion. Alas, Mike, we don't have time for that. And you got me going on about AI data centers, and way to go, Alex.
Crazy how it ties in, though.
Oh man!
Just in terms of the water usage that those data centers do take up, and it's why so many communities, it does sound great when you think data center, new jobs, everything coming to it, but then how those things run, exactly how you mentioned, it's 24/7 using up the water supply just to run. One center. Yeah.
Well, with that said, we're going to go ahead and get out of here. Mike, thank you so much for joining us today.
Alex, thank you.
Always enjoy your input, and look forward to the next time we have you on here.
Definitely.
And once again, I'm Alex Kenlin. This is Make It Make Sense. And if you want to reach out to us, if you had questions or considerations, tips, whatever else we can do for you, make it make sense at nextstar.tv. Thank you very much. Talk soon.